Hello,
Hello.
everybody. Now, I am Deanne
Mhm.
Adams. I'm story coach and mentor. And this video is talking to one of my, did you know I own people? One of my writers, authors, Kell Willsen. And we haven't done any recordings for social media or anything before, have we?
Yeah. Nope.
Uh, but we have a very special reason for doing one now. Would you like to tell everyone about it?
Yeah, this is I am re-releasing book one, tidied up interior, new cover, that is out now. And I have book two, which will be available on the 3rd of October and afterwards, which has taken quite a long time and a lot of help, thank you, Deanne, to bring to fruition. So yes, I am quite excited about this. It's a definite milestone.
Brilliant. And so let me get this right now. Book one is called Eartha 27.
That's right, yes.
And book two, that will be out on October 3rd, is called The Avlem Burden.
Yes, it
And
is.
both of them are part of the same series cycle of stories belonging
Yeah.
to the Fragments series. Can you tell us a bit
Yes.
about that?
Yeah, so Fragments, it's a sort of fairly typical low fantasy setting, not Earth, but not unlike Earth. It's a country which has been either invaded or occupied or settled, depending on who you talk to. And that is the sort of the premise of the whole series, depending on who you talk to. Each of the 7 books is from the perspective of a different person with a different background and a different view on recent history.
Mm. And so that's why you've called it Fragments, isn't it? Because they are
Yeah.
all fragments of the same story.
Yeah. You only really get the whole story if you put all the pieces together, and none of the characters can actually do that. That is something that we can do as the writer, as readers from outside.
Mm.
And that's something that's always fascinated me about stories. The way that when you have the luxury of a piece of fiction, whether it's a book or a film, whatever it is, you get to be the dispassionate outsider looking in and understanding everybody and looking at their motives.
Mm.
And then in real life, we're usually living far too deep inside a story to see any perspective but our own.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
sort of, yeah.
And so you're very interested in exploring the dimensions and the different truths of different people, because
Yeah,
all of them are telling the absolute truth as they see it.
exactly.
But
And
if
I
you
think,
are within
yeah,
your own perspective, you do not have you don't have control of the total truth, do you?
you don't. And I think it's something that I've sort of come to realize about real life as something that I try to remember these days. It's not always easy because obviously our own perspective comes to us most easily. It feels the most true. We know why we do stuff. And it takes a bit more work to try and think maybe other people have a reason for why they do stuff as well.
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the real advantages to fiction, to stories generally, is it's what do they call it? Like it's emotional training or like empathy training. Because if you can practice taking other people's perspectives in stories where honestly it doesn't really matter,
Mhm.
maybe you can kind of develop the skills to take perspectives of real people. And that's one of the things, without sort of sounding like I'm trying to change the world and make deep philosophical statements, no, I just feel like stories, some people like, yeah, some people like treat stories like they're a luxury, they're an extra. And I
Mm.
kind of feel that they're an essential part of everyone's education.
There's a reason stories have been around
Yeah.
ever since we've been able to speak as a species.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So,
So
would you tell us a little about a little about the first perspective of the book of Eartha 27, the one that's out already? Now, the
yeah,
lead character is called Kerrig, and he
that's right.
is an Earther. He is of
Yeah.
the people.
Yes, that's right. So we've got the people, who are the original inhabitants of what they just call the land, and something that partly comes out of the fact that I'm bad at making up names, and partly comes out of a lot of I mean, I know, I looked around
I
and I was like,
appreciate your honesty.
there we go. There we go. I am bad at making up names. Names tend to be one of the last things that happens when I'm writing a draft. People just go through the whole of the draft sometimes with just placeholder names. But the other reason for calling it the land and the people is if you translate the names of a lot of nations and nationalities, that's what they mean. Like a lot of places, when they need a name for their own country, they just go, our country. When they need a name for themselves, they just go, us.
Well, it's us, isn't it?
Right.
Yes, of
You don't need a
course.
name for home. It's like,
Mm,
most little kids don't know their parents' first names because, as far as they're concerned, they're called mum and dad.
yes. So it's
And
us, and then there's them.
there's them, there's outsiders. They've all got unique individual names because we need to identify them. We need to be able to tell the difference between them. But us, we don't need an identifier. We're just us. And
Mm.
so, yes, the people of the land, they're the original inhabitants, and the Kerrig, the main character of Eartha 27, he's not had a very easy life. And in fact, although the fighting, the actual war of occupying this country, ended when he was a baby, sadly, both his parents were killed in one of the last battles. So it's been 50 years ago in story time. Most people consider that to be history, consider it happened for almost everyone he meets. It happened before they were born. But for him, it's very personal. And I wanted to explore a story which was inspired by a member of my family. My grandmother was old enough to remember some quite nasty injustices that, to my generation, were just footnotes in a history book. And
Mm.
she would get very emotional and very angry talking about them. And I can understand that because it happened to her, it happened to her parents.
Mm.
But to me, it was like, well, that was over 100 years ago.
Let
The
it
things
go.
that happened to her parents. And I was like, oh, why are you still angry about this? And then I thought about it and I thought, if something happened to my parents,
Yeah.
I would never get to the point where I was like, it was a long time ago. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
That would be so difficult to accept. And my grandmother lived to be well into her 90s. So
Mm.
she was legitimately, personally angry about things that happened in the early 1900s to
Mm.
her parents. And so instead of sort of coming down strongly on one side or the other, I wanted to tell a story where a character has a legitimate grievance, and yet the people he's angry with are all dead. Who's
Mm.
he taking his anger out on?
Yes.
And it's a thorny topic. It's not one I pretend to have any answers for, and one that I hadn't seen discussed in stories. So, you know what they say, if you can't find the story you want to read, write it.
Write it. Exactly. So while you acknowledge you don't have the answer or answers to such a thorny topic,
Yeah.
what do you want to, what are you bringing to the conversation with this book and books?
Yeah. What I hope to bring is a way to talk about it which puts you kind of at a bit of an emotional distance. Talking about, I mean, I haven't even named what happened to my great-grandparents because I don't want to go in that direction. It is not about a specific injustice to a specific group of people. But if I can create a fictional category, a fictional, like a culture, fictional cultures and fictional culture clashes, then there can be discussions between people saying, well, do I think Kerrig made the right choice at the end? Oh, do I think Nesh has a point when she tells him this? No. Do I agree with Tragle about what she's chosen to do with her life? And hopefully nobody feels personally attacked. They can hopefully reasonably dispassionately look at these characters, look at the choices they make and the things they say, and go, do I agree with that? And it hasn't got with it the baggage of, I don't want to agree with that person. They belong to the people that, have done terrible things. Or I don't want to disagree with this person because I'm supposed to be supporting that group.
So it's asking questions in a safe way that doesn't mean we don't have to put ourselves into a specific camp and say, these are the people we're supposed to be agreeing with. These are the good guys. These are the bad guys. And, it isn't safe to consider things from other people's point of view because it's all fictional. And you have also written a good story, while these are the things you'd like people to think about when they are reading your book. They are also able to enjoy the story as well.
Yes, I hope so. That's I haven't written a philosophical treatise. I hope I've written a story, an adventure that people want to know what happens. I'm glad that you're taking that from it. That's great. Because I have written a plot. I call it literary fantasy, but it's not Waiting for Godot. It's not just sort of sitting around and having deep conversations. It's walking along the road and having deep conversations.
No, things happen.
They do happen. I mean, yes. I mean, the whole thing kicks off with a collapse in a mine, so it's not exactly low action. But there's stuff happening, and I think as well that's sort of, I tried to keep things connected to real life because it would be nice if we all just had time to sit down and think everything through. But the fact is, stuff keeps happening.
It does.
And when you are trying to take a breath and count to 10 and just pause for a second, life just keeps going. So there's my characters. Yes, they're trying to work stuff out, but they're also trying to survive and stay together and look after children and feed each stuff and
and eat dinner
and keep out of the rain, and there's stuff going on. You can't just sort of stop and say, now we shall not do anything else until we have found out the answers to what's going on. It's like, no, you have to keep going.
You do.
So yes, I have my characters who have their speeches, but who also have stuff that they just need to do.
So Earth 27 then out now. Wherever we post this, we'll try to add a link somewhere there,
sides under
somewhere close. And yes, please read it. Please get in touch. Please follow Kell Willsen on her various social media platforms.
Yes, there will also be links.
Reviews of the book as well.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I am an indie publisher, so this is my marketing. You guys are my marketing. Thank you.
We will talk to you again soon. Look out for further recordings from us. Bye-bye.
Bye.